Hey everyone, it's Vinyl. Today we're going to be doing a review or kind of showcase of Commando from Risk of Rain 2. I'm going to talk about him quite a bit. I'm going to give recommendations, notes, and just a lot of things about him. So if you have played Risk of Rain 2, this might just be interesting if, there might be something you didn't know. Or if you haven't played Risk of Rain 2, it's a good way to learn earlier, especially if you're like looking to buying the game. I personally do recommend this game. Love this game very much. I have way too many hours and I'm 100% in the game. So let's jump into the review. First we're going to talk about his lore, and then after that we'll talk about his look, and then we'll go through all of his moves. But a quick side note is Commando does spawn in a dropship, which means he has the potential to go and use the fuel array in order to obtain Rex as long as he gets the correct stage 4. That is just a quick but pretty important note, as not everyone has that ability. Commando also starts off with a base pool of 110 HP. The soldier ducked, barely getting under cover as the wall behind him exploded. His head was pounding, his muscles aching, but now was not the time for rest. He counted the seconds. The mounted missile launchers always took a few seconds to recalibrate, and if he took advantage of that time. Through the sounds of gunfire and chaos, he heard a small click as the enemy missile platform prepared for a second strike. Recognizing his opportunity, the soldier jumped up from behind the wall and fired his pistol, landing a shot straight between the eyes of the platform's operator. His shoulders tightened as he braced for recoil. Now was not the time for rest. Glancing down the battlefield, there were only a few more enemy platforms to take, and this front would be secured. But before he could move to join his platoon, he received a notification on the heads-up display in his helmet. You have been reassigned. Report to command for your new assignment. Looks like the time to rest wasn't coming anytime soon. With lore out of the way, let's get talking about Commando's moveset. Commando's one and only primary is Double Tap, which has a proc coefficient of 1, meaning it's really good for starting proc chains, and it rapidly shoots enemies for 100% damage each bullet. It shoots 6 times per second when you're shooting at base attack speed, and each bullet does suffer from projectile fall off, so the further you are away, the less damage it will do. Double Tap also has a bloom effect, so the more you fire it, the bigger the crosshair gets, meaning it's harder to hit your opponents, or just any mob or monster you're trying to attack. Next up on the list is Phase Round, which also has a proc coefficient of 1. It's one of Commando's secondary abilities, which has a cooldown of 3 seconds. It fires a piercing bullet for 300% damage, and every enemy it passes through, it deals 40% more damage, meaning it can actually do quite a bit of damage. I did a lot of experimenting with this, which you'll see in the footage. A couple notes is that it travels through terrain, so you can kind of just shoot it at a wall, which is pretty helpful. Each progressive pierce also deals 120% more base damage, as the 40% damage is a total damage increase, not just a base damage increase. So the move, it's not bad, but I do think it pales in comparison to its Phase Blast brethren, but it's still a pretty good move. Next up is Commando's first utility, Tactical Dive. It has a 4-second cooldown. It makes you roll a short distance, which gives you iframes during the roll. The move is also an agile move, which means it means you can use it while sprinting. So if you are sprinting, you can still throw out the move, no problems. The cooldown, it's not too bad, so it actually is a pretty good move. You can throw it up whenever it's up. When you're in the air, you can also dash, and it will preserve your air time. It's a really good move if you're falling from a high height, especially if you're on like a cliffs or something. When fall damage is lethal, you can save yourself with the move. It goes in any direction that your character is moving, so you don't just have to aim your mouse in the direction you want to go. You just have to be walking in said direction. Next up is Commando's first special move, which has a cooldown of 9 seconds, Suppressive Fire. It has a proc coefficient of 1 every bullet that it shoots, which is 6 bullets at base, but it heavily increases with attack speed. So the move also stuns, which makes it really good if, for example, you're being attacked by a stone golem. and you need to stop it from shooting its beam, it's really good to stop that. It does the same amount of damage per bullet as double tap, so 100%, and the number of shots will increase with your attack speed, which I do have footage of, I think, as I've said. Sadly, it also falls into the realm of default projectile fall off, so you will slowly begin to lose damage the further you are away from an enemy. I did an example with 100%, or sorry, 100 syringes and then 10 syringes. 100 syringes, obviously, it shoots extremely fast and shoots an extreme amount of bullets as it would with 100 syringes. So obviously, I decided to give 10 syringes for a more gameplay example. Next up, we're going to talk about Commando's skin, which is the Hornet skin. It gives him black armor and more blackish brown armor, and it adds some additions to his helmet, making him a little more intimidating. I also just prefer the black style of the Hornet skin, so that's the skin. Commando's alternate secondary is Phase Blast, which has a 3-second cooldown and a proc coefficient of 0.5 times 8. It fires 2 close-range blasts that deal 8 times 200% damage, obviously meaning it shoots 8 bullets for 200% damage each, 4 per gun. It is unlocked via the Rolling Thunder challenge, which means you need to kill an overloading worm. You need to at least kill the last worm. It also suffers from buckshot fall-off, meaning that if you are far away, it doesn't actually hit your opponent. Commando's second utility is Tactical Slide. It also has a 4-second cooldown. You slide on the ground, and you're able to shoot while firing. It's unlocked via the Godspeed challenge, which means you need to fully charge the first stage teleporter before the timer hits 5 minutes, which isn't too bad. This move is also agile, which means you can use it while sprinting. You can also use it in the air as a short extra jump, so that's pretty beneficial. Also, the trick with this move is to sprint, jump, and throw out the move in a very quick fashion. It allows you to get the distance of the slide and the height of a double jump very quickly. So it is a very good traversal tool overall. I definitely prefer this move, spoiler, for my opinion, over the tactical dive, but both are good in their own right. Final move on the list, Frag Grenade. It has a cooldown of 5 seconds per stack. You can hold up to 2, which means Suppressive Fire and Frag Grenade have about the same cooldown overall to recharge the entire thing. Each grenade has a proc coefficient of 1. You throw a grenade that explodes for 700% damage. You can hold up to 2. There's an Incorruptible challenge that you need to complete, which means you need to not pick up a lunar item for 20 stages within a single run. The timer begins after a singular bounce, and the timer's 1 second, so you can't really throw them up in the air and hope to hit something. You do actually have to make sure you land. You do have to throw it at ground enemies. The last thing about it is you do need to hit within the smaller circle of the blast radius in order to get your maximum damage, as anything outside of that circle takes less damage compared to anything that's within that smaller circle. Now that all that's over, I'm going to give you guys a short run that I did just for this video. It honestly didn't end up going too well. It should have went better than it did, but at the end, it proves that no matter how powerful you are, one mistake can screw up everything. Either way, this will be the end of my Commando review showcase video. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you really did stick around for this, like I'm surprised I tried with this video, and I hope you did enjoy it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Have a good one.